Honestly, this is my first kind of formal address, and when I was invited by Shri Prakash Chaudhary sir to be part of this week-long, interaction or faculty development activity, he wanted to check with me what would I like to speak about. I said, I am a practitioner and not a professor, although I did my higher studies, writing my thesis in what I've been doing all those 30 years on my own area of activity, mainly being soybean, and I was conferred with MPhil, then doctoral and postdoctoral degrees. So friends, I thought what I've been doing all these 40 years, why not to share some of my real experiences, particularly in international business, which has in fact been one of my major area of activity all through since 1977. Although I came into business, maybe I don't know whether these introduction would tell you, at a very early age, believe me, when I was only in school. I did my graduation and higher studies later. A lot of practical insight, and when I was doing my commerce graduation, I was actually able to relate things. What I was been doing is something which is being taught in the books. So my concepts were getting clearer day by day, and I would say I'm fortunate to get into actual business at that early age. I was only 19 when I started getting into international business. I mean, this is a bit rare even to understand the nuances of any business, in my case particularly the agribusiness, which has been the major area of my activity. You would be aware that this group was started by our Honorable Chairman, Dr. N.N. Jain, when he started his journey as an entrepreneur in 1977. And although I started with some other business earlier along with my studies, but then I joined him in his business right at that stage when I was just completing 20 years of age. And what I could see, that it has been very enterprising. It is full of new opportunities, new challenges, day in and day out, which I would say learned from none else but from my worthy father, whom I consider as not only my father but my guru, my philosopher, I would say the one who is a living legend as a techno-commercial genius into industries, into trade, into business, and into creating organizations. It was only 1994, 92 I would say, when Prestige Education Society was incorporated, and the first Prestige Institute of Management and Research came into existence in the year 1994. We had to wait for 2 years to wait for the High Court and Supreme Court rulings and directives on the model of private education into professional areas, because until then most of those professional education was wasted with the government colleges and institutions. Now we are into, I think, most of the professional education areas in addition to the school education. So we are fortunate to impart quality education right from the point of kindergarten up to PhD doctoral degrees, into management education, now also into law, into engineering, into mass communication, into commerce, into computer applications, and all those special areas. And the school education per se, I would say, is the area which offers huge potential and is the cornerstone of any nation. In this competitive world, our school needs something extraordinary input for the budding students, and I'm sure that all of you are doing your utmost in instilling that kind of knowledge and skills in our children, keeping the value systems as the highest priority. Well, as I mentioned, since I have been involved in early age into a business which comprises of soybean processing. We started with cattle feed and animal feed manufacturing unit of in 1977, which people do not know much that what kind of industry and size of industry it is in India and worldwide. You would be amazed. Animal feeding or the ingredients for animal feeding is a massive business worldwide, and it goes in trillions of dollars, not in billions. We as a company, I would say, were amongst the pioneers in this country who started with that activity, and with our chairman having vast experience from his earlier service, where he got his training into England in way back in 1964. He became one of the experts into feed milling and oil extraction industry. The first, it was 1979 when our company Prestige Foods Limited got incorporated as a private limited company, and we started with a solvent extraction plant to process soybeans, which was a newer oilseed crop at that time. But as you would know, and I would rather like to acquaint you, that what is this soybean, what it is used for, how it is grown, what it is used for. So I thought let me bring you a live actual sample, because many of you might have not even seen soybean. How does it look like? So this is the soybean, which is popularly known in the world as wonder bean. Why it's wonder bean? It contains very high amount of protein. The bean contains as much as 40% protein, and also it contains about 19% of oil. Soybean oil is also a very good oil, very healthy oil as a cooking medium. So you get two products. When you extract soybean, you get soybean oil, which is about 18% crude oil and 17% refined oil out of this, and the residual part is actual protein, which is known as de-oiled cake or soybean meal. And this is what the product, you may feel does look like very ordinary thing, but when I tell you what is the kind of volume it is traded worldwide, it is humongous. It is something like the production in the world soybean today is 35 crore tons. So almost 25 crore tons of meal is produced out of this, and which is traded worldwide, consumed worldwide. India, we are just about 3% of the world production. Although we are the 5th largest in the world, but our size is pretty small when we compare ourselves from the Western world. About the major producers are US, producing about 11 crore tons, followed by Brazil about 10 crore tons, then Argentina about 5.5 crore tons, China about 1 crore 25 lakh tons, and India about 1 crore 15 lakh tons. These are the major 5 producers in the world. The rest of the world would say be within a total of about 5 crore tons. So you can just imagine what is the value of this crop. This is the best protein source, best in the vegetable, as a vegetable protein. There is no better protein than soybean. Now, how is that? What I am going to talk to you today is something which I have really dealt myself, which I would like to take you along, to take you something what we went through, where I was required to handle something like a crisis situation the country was facing, and I would like to narrate you the whole thing, exactly what it was and how was it dealt with or handled. 1997, if you recall, I don't know, some of you would certainly know, we had a very heavy, elongated monsoon rains, which went even during, which continued, the monsoon continued during October, November, and even in December, which is very unusual. I think that year we had more than 70 inches of rain. Fortunately, on the brighter side, the country had a very good soybean crop, one of the highest in those years, and with that kind of a bountiful harvest, the farmers could not even remove the crop from the fields after cleaning and the harvest operation. Most of the crops remained in the field for natural sun drying, and then this incessant rains changed the whole thing. The crops remained there after harvest, and they got inundated with water and also soaked a lot of moisture. Well, since there was about 6 million tons, that is 60 lakh tons of soybean that needs to be, anyway required to move to the processing plants, and we had put up, 3 plants by then, where we were processing about 1,000 tons of soybeans per day in those years. That is about 10,000 bags of soybean every day. Like us, there were many other processing companies and processing plants in Madhya Pradesh, because the Madhya Pradesh accounts for 60% of the crop produced in the country, and and in those years it was not more 60, but it was more than 75% in fact, and the rest of it was coming from Rajasthan and Maharashtra, and a small portion from UP. But now I think it's changed, where it's about 50% from MP, about 40%, 35% from Maharashtra, about 7% from Rajasthan, and rest from other southern parts of the country. So when I say that that year this problem occurred, and let me also add that important aspect of this industry is this is an export oriented industry, where in those years, after extracting and utilizing the oil, the residual meal, almost everything was exported. We had ready markets throughout Asia where this product was in ready demand, since we were the major exporters into Asia region. A small quantity also was coming from China, although they themselves were consuming most of what they produced. Now this particular thing, since our own company was also involved, and maybe another 40 other soybean processing companies were also processing soybeans and exporting the soybean meal, which contains about 48% of protein into this. Sorry. When I say that they were exporting, this export activity essentially was through some of the large corporations, where those are multinational companies or transnational companies who have their operations and offices throughout the world. That is also in the producing countries and in the consuming countries. So they used to buy this product from the processors, accumulate the cargoes, and after consolidation of the quantities, they were bringing into the ships which they used to charter, and then were exporting it, I think, throughout the world, that is into East Asia, West Asia, and also into the East and West Europe that time. Now when things were going well, Indian industry, soybean industry being an export oriented industry, was considered as a sunrise industry. All of a sudden, with that kind of inclement weather conditions which it encountered, and the result, as I mentioned, the crop was water soaked or with very high moisture content, started changing its normal, this yellowish color. Now what happens that if you start using this beans with more than 12% moisture, then there are inherent problems which arise with the commodity, and it has adverse effect on the overall product quality. Since the product was already there and there was ready market and I would say good demand all through the Asian countries, so as usual there were contracts entered into during month of July, August, September, October by those foreign multinational companies to buy the product from Indian processors and export to those end using buyers in these countries. Immediately when we started the processing in the month of October, which is the first month of after the harvest, or which is the month where the harvest gets almost complete, the processing became a bit difficult and we started to dry up the things, but since it was raining all through, you could not see a normal kind of weather. The weather had a lot of humidity and material become even more hygroscopic in such condition where the moisture affects, as I mentioned, maintaining those international standard specifications. This occurred and we started with our exports. The cargo started arriving at the ports of shipment, which is generally used to be Kandla and Jamnagar, that is Bedi Bandar, and in those years Bombay was not used as much, the western ports, and they started finding that it is not meeting the contractual specification and it was rendered out of those tolerance limits. So they started to reject those cargoes. Now there was a dilemma that on one side they were also under contractual commitments with their overseas buyers and the ships were already been lined up or chartered to carry those cargoes against their contracts. Now if they do not ship, they have to pay heavy damages and penalties for cancellation of chartered ships, or they have to carry the cargoes as such, which might be, but what they started weathering those cargoes in the port of discharge with the view that probably it will lose some moisture, and eventually they started in different kind of cargoes arriving from different processors and making some average quality and trying to push that into those into their nominated vessels. Now, when we can say that initially there was some kind of a substandard quality, and by the time they completed those shipments and those ships arrived at the destination ports, the problem become very complex. Even, I must say, to our surprise, we have never imagined that there were fumes into the vessel holds with the cargo start getting charred, and there were kind of smoke seed around. These all things were something which was very disturbing for the buyers who have already paid these for those supplies. Once the shipment is effected through a letter of credit transaction, the buyers get their money through the banking channel. Now the cargo arrives, it is not into a merchantable kind of a quality which could be used, and this color, which is creamish to light yellowish, start turning to brown and even blackish. We were after this lot of shipments, when they reached those countries, we started getting one after other series of complaints and notifications of rejection of those cargoes. But what happens, since our contracts as a processor were with those multinational companies, they had also almost applied double, triple or 4 times of quality allowances or quality rebate, so that they can take those discounts on the quality, and after making those deductions they have paid to those Indian suppliers or Indian processors. So when we see the legal position as a processor, our contractual obligation is only up to that supply to those multinational companies. So our contracts actually closes there. After getting the money, project finally settled with a discount mutually accepted and getting that money, that our job is is over. We are not something where we have privity of contract or up to the final destination or a final end user or a buyer, because we are not in direct contact with them. But as Prestige, our own company, even in those years, were directly exporting a lot of their product by chartering their own vessels and to those end users directly. So we had relationships built, and we have known those markets and those actual consumers, built some relationship with them. So that was an added advantage with us. But now what happens, the moment you are saddled with huge claims coming to you from all the countries where these goods have reached, these multinational buyers again come to you. Now what to do with these things, because ultimately the claims come on their head, because the buyers would not just I might say either pay them, have paid them, will just accept it in toto. They will certainly raise those objections, either that to replace the cargo, to take it back, or to settle the matter. Since the harvest time was September 1997, October was when the processing began. The real problem when it come to the fore was somewhere around December 1997, and up to February this became such a serious issue that everything from India came to a grinding halt, that no buyer was willing even to talk about Indian soybean meal, leave aside, well, even if it is cheaper, they were not even ready to talk about it, to leave aside to buy the product. Now the buyers, and there was stalemate, the trade was not taking place, and although as suppliers we got our money after applying those discounts, the matter gets referred directly to Government of India by those importing countries through their ambassadors and through their trading commissioners and consulars. All those diplomats have referred these matters through their Indian missions to make that these Indians have actually, they have even gone to say they have cheated them by supplying a product which is not as per contractual specifications, and it is substandard material, and it is not merchantable, not usable. And when they started getting one after the other countries making the same complaint, even some of the countries blacklisted India totally. They have said now they have blacklisted India, they will not buy from India. So the Indian Ministry of Commerce top officials, they thought that probably the things are so I would say in a shape, so they need to immediately take up with this matter. And the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Commerce, Mr. S.M. Acharya, flew to Indore. he asked an emergency meeting to take place with the Indian soybean processors, who are the actual suppliers of that material through those multinational channels or multinational houses. This man comes here, in the meeting where there were almost, I would say, 30 odd leading soybean processors around at SOPAD, our Soybean Processors Association of India headquarters. He made very serious, remarks that he will cancel all export licenses of these companies, because it has, in fact, led to tarnishing the image of the country by supplying a product of this kind, and there are serious and very furious buyers from everywhere that what India has actually supplied. So after the meeting, he said, you decide what you want to do, otherwise I will take very stern action against all of you. Now, after the meeting, when all the soybean processors were sitting, including those stalwarts, people who had of 70 years of age, and they were chairman or former chairman of the association, they start discussing, and they said during the meeting, what is that we can do about it? It is none of our contract with those end users, and as a matter of fact, we have already decided our course with these buyers, with the multinational buyers, and we have already passed on those quality discounts or rebates to them. So it is up to those buyers that to go and settle with those their ultimate buyers. And since this problem was all of a sudden and became very serious, he even went to say to the extent, the time is of endurance, just leave it there, let this dust settle down, and we can see that we will forget about it. So these kind of discussions were taking place in the meeting at SOPA amongst the fellow processors. At that time, I was one of the junior, although I was the only one, I would say, from the lot which had an experience to deal with those end users or international buyers directly. So after the meeting, in the meeting I said, well, it is easy to say, to disown the liability or to shirk away from your moral responsibility as the prime producers of the cargo, suppliers of the cargo. Even if you have been paid, you just can't run away from the situation. It would not be prudent for you to say that we do not have a privity of the contract with those end users. What is there? Those are multinational companies. They will forget about us as being let down, and they would never buy from us again. Because for them, when they want to buy in dollars, the world is at their command. They can go to any other producer or country and can acquire the cargo from them. So what is that you would do? I said that you should not say that you are not responsible, even if you are not responsible on a contractual basis, but for the sake of future business and relations, you should come forward, face the situation, and I would strongly urge to mount a delegation of the major processors into all these countries where we have received these serious complaints, and try and address them in whatever best way we can resolve in the interest of our future business, because we as a processor run our industries. Year after year we have to produce our cargo, and and we need customers and for our product. Otherwise we would not be able to operate, because this is an export-oriented industry. It doesn't have a market within the country. So this is the only way I feel, even at the cost of facing to face the problem where we are not directly actually involved with those companies. The comments were very rash from the other side. Our fellow processor said to me, well, Davish, you want to add fuel to the fire? They are already furious. Now what do you want to do that? They will, I would say, hold you unnecessarily. So you forget about it. Let it remain like that. I said, I still do not accept this version and this kind of an approach. This is suicidal. We will have to forget about those markets, those buying and those international buyers coming to us again. What it may be, let us face it courageously, diligently, and try and find solutions in whatever best way. So he said that you want to take a delegation, you are suggesting to take a delegation? I said yes. वो अपन हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, जो बोले वो डब्बा खोले. Oh, the whole thing came on my head. Okay, take the delegation. So they almost passed on the buck to me. Now what do you want to do? I said, all the seniors should now decide that next couple of weeks we prepare and we go to these markets, talk to those buyers and see what we can do, what is there. Because we need to also take a stock of the situation, the first hand situation, the ground situation, and unless we meet and see it by ourselves, things are not coming to us in a real manner. I think that was a mandate given to me right at that moment, and I would say I took that big responsibility coming out of my head, but I would say that was an opportunity, I would say, because I feel there are always opportunity in the challenges, and I see it that way. I had discussed and decided about the composition of delegation. And the composition of delegation was from the top Indian companies like Mr. S.M. Acharya, who came to SOPA as the government official. He has to be the leader, and I was the one who was designated as the deputy leader or the leader from the trade and industry. So, and I was the major spokesperson to, answer and meet those buyers, answer their queries, try and resolve things. With me were a vice president from ITC, one of the directors and CEO of Khaitan Agro, a director of Samaria Agro, a director of Ruchi Soya Industries, a director of Cane Oil or Itarsi Oil, the branch manager of State Trading Corporation, STC, Government of India undertaking based in Singapore, and another director of another soya processors from Madhya Pradesh. So we were almost 9 people who formed a high-powered delegation to visit these countries, which were Japan, South Korea, then China and Philippines. This was for the objective which we decided was to assess the ground situation and the repercussions arising out of those cargoes which had been stained, which became unmerchantable, which were shipped during December, which arrived during December and February 98. Then also to assess the marketability for future in these countries, which are the major buyers for Indian soybean meal. So here I would like to just quote that people say difficult to face the situation, but I would say not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it is faced. So this quote of James Baldwin was very, I would say, pertinent and appropriate for this kind of a situation, that we need to face this thing on the ground. The delegation leaves from India, and the first leg is Japan. Now let me take you to Japan. Japan, as you know, is one of the most advanced countries, a very formal society, very meticulous people, and they are the one who's always seek the best of quality products wherever they source from. Now leaving from India, from Delhi, overnight flight, arriving to Tokyo, Narita airport, almost 12 hours after a halt at Hong Kong. 1.5 hours, the flight cannot land at Narita because there was a typhoon, and the first leg, we had already fixed our first meeting with the top 16 the largest corporations of Japan. You would know, the Mitsubishi, Sumitomo, Marubeni, Mitsui, all those corporations are very, very large conglomerates. They deal in everything. They are the major buyers, and 16 of them in the Japan Feed Trade Association as members at their high levels, at the vice president level or general manager level. They were all waiting for that appointed meeting at 3 p.m. in the afternoon at their Japan Feed Trade Association office in Tokyo. Now, by the time our flight could land, it was already 12:40, and we had to go 70 kilometers to reach the hotel. After so much of journey, one would certainly get exhausted. But Japan is known for meeting its time schedule, that they don't delay meeting up at the appointed time by even 1 minute. You cannot be 5 minutes earlier also, but you cannot be even 1 minute later. So you have to be right into the dot. This is something which is special of Japan. Because, and if you say somebody, it will take 19 minutes, so it will take 19 minutes to reach that place. They are so clear. There are no, roadblocks. There are no traffic jams. This is a system which every country should learn from Japanese systems. Now these people waiting, and we could just dump our baggage in the hotel. We were asked that everyone has to be in the coach to leave for the meeting in next 20 minutes. Just imagine, just getting freshened up after that kind of a break, taking care of your leaflets and brochures and other materials which you are carrying for those meetings, and be there. And exactly 20 minutes, barring one of the delegate who was traveling for the first time out of the country, everyone was in the coach. We leave for the meeting, and we arrive at that building, then take an elevator to reach the meeting venue. It was 4 minutes past 3 o'clock. So we were late by 4 minutes. The first thing, the ambassador, the joint secretary, who was the leader, official leader from the government side, tendered his apology that we are late. All those 16 multinational top executives were all sitting, in that meeting hall in their suit and tie, and very well ready for the meeting to start. Just imagine how disciplined that society is. And the moment he starts that, well, friends, we have brought a delegation of the leading soybean processors from India. We understand that there are certain issues which have cropped up, and I would like the leader of the trade, Mr. Davis Jain, to talk to you. That is the total, I would say, words he said after welcoming and thanking the Japanese buyer, and he handed over the mic to me. Just imagine, asking that we should mount a delegation is easy, but then how do you tackle the situation? How do you deal with a set of buyers who are so disgruntled, totally dejected with this kind of happenings, and have lost heavy money buying our cargoes? This is my way of doing business, that I try and do some homework before I appear for any meeting. And the background, I try to understand, look, when we go there, what we are going to talk to them, because they are certainly going to vent out all their grievances. They are not going to be, simply, welcoming us, that okay, you are welcome, so what about new business? Probably they would like first to deal with those rejected cargoes. But as usual, Japanese, as a very cultured society, they would never be rash or impolite with you, even if there are problems. This is one should learn from them. They started talking to us. Yes, we have received this problem. We have deputed our insurance survey companies and their agents. Their findings were the cargo got really not into as bad as what has been received here. So they try to, the insurance companies try to make it a point that they may not have to pay those claims emanating from those spoilage of the cargoes, on the ground that it is an inherent vice. This inherent vice is a condition in an insurance policy. If the cargo by its own chemical composition or reaction changes or gets deteriorated, is not covered for any claims. And so they try to say that these claims are not admissible. They are not payable under that insurance cover. Well, number one, what I said, friends, thank you to meet, finding time. We have come here to really understand what is the problem which actually you have faced, because we know that despite the fact that the problem was even at the time of harvest, we have tried to weather up the cargoes and control those moistures before they were actually shipped. And when they were shipped, they were not into as bad a state. And I said to them, sir, believe us, these problems are not man-made. This is the Mother Nature's fury which has, had made this havoc, that these cargoes during the voyage, during the transit, has become this problematic or this worse. And what we can surely say, that we are ready to work with your insurance companies and tell them that during this voyage what actually went wrong, which resulted in this kind of problem. First and foremost, that we do not dispute that there is a problem. We do not dispute that you are wrong. We only say that the problem became complex after the shipment was effected and the cargo was passing through a sea weather, where what happens, generally in those years there were old vessels of about 10 to 12,000 ton capacity cargoes. These vessels, being old of 20 and 30 years of age, did not have proper ventilation within those ships. All agricultural material needs to have proper aeration, and if there is no aeration, the high moisture cargo gets moldy and becomes develop high temperature, and even can see a charring or a smoke or fire also eventually. So these problems is something which is not man-made, and believe us, whatever happened, we can work with your insurance companies. And let me assure you that whatever has happened is a lesson for us. That how do we ensure that this do not recur? The problem is there. The problem cannot be continued year after year. We did not see this kind of weather conditions any time in any earlier years or before. So this is the first instance that it has actually proved like this. So we said that we have now decided to install special dryer coolers within our processing units, which can take care of this any excessive moisture right at the time of processing. So there is no further high moisture cargo even leaving our factories. And once that is possible, then the cargo spoilage en route could be totally avoided. Secondly, I made another point. Generally, all these cargoes were certified for their quality at the time of shipment, when the time of loading into the ships at Indian ports. I said, so what we have done is to strengthen our survey systems and quality control systems, and we will appoint another set of surveyors which will also check and certify those cargoes before they leave our factories. So at the point of production also there would be another check. So all those things could be totally eliminated. Probably all these things convince them that this is a bona fide problem, where at least these people are ready to talk to us, have come all the way. They have not been, saying that it is none of their problems. They are ready to listen to us. And after that, next day, we went to meet one of their largest cooperatives in Japan, which is Zeno, and they have the lion's share of the market. And that also, they also had, we dealt with them. We again apprised with the same thing to them. They served us with a lunch. Everything went on peacefully. Things were, I would say, quite cooled down, and the buyers were not as agitated as they started showing, in beginning. Next leg of our Next leg of our journey was South Korea. You know, the capital is Seoul. They are also a very advanced country. But let me tell you, they are not as sophisticated or cultured as Japanese. They would have their own set of, buying systems. They have formed a union of all feed milling companies to jointly buy their total needs through global tenders. Their buying is very large. They rule the markets because the moment they come into the markets, everyone wants to sell to them because they are the bulk buyers. Now, when we reached them, the ambassador of India in Seoul said, since he was also aware of the serious complaints made by them, that he would also like to join for the meeting with Korea Feed Association. So he also accompanies us. The meeting, we reached there. Just imagine what kind of reception we got. This man, the chairman of KFA, one of the very, big businessmen known in the agribusiness in the world, he started saying, "What is this you have done? It all amounts to cheating." And before we could even start, his people start coming up with some trays of Indian cargo reaching there. Believe me, it was looking just like a garbage. Now, after seeing this kind of state of your cargo, you are just shut. What can you, react if somebody is showing you what they have received from you? Very furious, very aggrieved. He said, "We will need this to be resolved." And after his, a lot of accusations and his resentments and, anger, we thought probably we have little to say to react, but we have said, "Sir, we are really sorry to see, and the very purpose we are here is to try and understand what can be done, how it could be utilized, and what we can do for the next, so that any such thing is totally eliminated." He said, "What about next time? You tell us about what you're doing now. Okay, go inside. Our members are waiting to meet you and talk to them." So the next stage of the meeting, when we entered into the room, probably this room was three-fourth of this size of room, hall. We were amazed of 4-side tables, and almost 65 of those feed millers assembled there, waiting for us to have this meeting. Same way, the leader, Mr. S.M. Acharya, starts his meeting. "Friends, we have brought a delegation from India. We understand that you have issues and problems. I would like to give it to our leader of the trade to talk to you." In international business, it's very important what you talk, how you talk. It should not get distorted by many people saying a different version, and then things go from bad to worse. I started the same, message, why we have come here, what we would like to share with you, our situation, that this is not deliberate. We have never tried to push in a bad cargo to you, but probably the problems have become this kind more in the course of transit, into sea weather conditions, and just believe what this meeting lasted, how long, how many questions I would have been posed with. Can you just imagine? This meeting, after meeting about 45 minutes with the chairman, this meeting lasted for 5 hours. 65 of them on the other side, I am on the receiving side. Should I lose my cool? How should I deal with that? Totally, I said, annoyed set of buyers. Believe me, I replied to each one of them to the best of my ability without even making one, hasty remark, or without any, this thing. Saying that, yes, of course, what you say, it is none of your problem. But believe us, it is not a problem, made by us as well. It is, again, the Mother Nature which has caused this kind of scene, and we need to understand from this, because they also deputed their surveyor to check the quality of Indian meal. But in a shipload, it's a huge bed of, layers. So generally they see the upper layer. How does it look like? Upper layer people were also very, smart. Indian multinational companies, they've flushed the upper layer with good quality cargo. Inside the bed, probably the layers down the line were not up to the mark, or they were really substandard. And all this were, as I mentioned, reached into very, very bad shape there. But anyway, after this meeting of 5 hours, I had been able to convince them, well, that we are not, cheated anyone deliberately, or we have not. But our sheer presence there to face the situation has changed has specified them and brought the level of their annoyance by sheer presence by at least 50%. So 50% was only that by our physical presence, things were, almost tamed down, and I allowed them to vent out their grievances. Because you see, if you don't allow them, then they are all getting further charged. So I said, okay, I'm here to understand, listen. Listening is something, I said, know how to listen, and you will profit from the person, even from those who talk shoddily. This is Plutarch said, very apt. Let them speak, but I think we should have the patience to listen to things. Then we again told them the way we would, take care of the cargoes when we process hereinafter, how we will control the quality, how we can see that in the course of transit things do not, take this kind of tolling effect on the cargo qualities. So after this meeting, I thought that to make it further, buyers, because for us, whatever they are our customers, ultimate customers, and they're very important to us. I said that I would like to invite you over to dinner tonight. Just imagine 65 people dinner in South Korea will cost you how much? It would be about 5,000 rupees per head, minimum, maybe more. Then who is going to pay for that? I asked my colleagues from Indian side, let us make kitty. We are here for a purpose. We want to change this attitude of these buyers. We cannot see them unhappy in any way. Our purpose that we want to make them friendly once again. So we thrown the dinner that night, spent some $2,500, and believe me, they were into different mood by the time we, I must say, went back. And to the chairman, I made an assurance, sir, we have come with some preparation that what we are going to take care of this kind of problems not to recur at the association level. We will assure you those things which I have mentioned would be very diligently and very meticulously observed and adhered to. Comes next leg of our then on that night I met the media. I talked to them over dinner because I invited them to international media also, and that also sent a message that Indian team next day morning all through the world, Indian team assures the Korean side of their right quality supplies, and they had lengthy discussions to resolve the cargo problems. Next we reach to our third leg in China. China was relatively a newer market, but they are enormous. You see, Chinese per se, they are a different kind of people. When they say that when they enter the market, nobody else can buy. When they enter the market to sell, nobody else can sell against them. And this is their strength. Sheer size of the country and the population. So they had already prepared to file claims against Indian supplies, and we met with the China Feed Industry Development Corporation and China National Native Produce and Animal Product Import and Export Corporation. They are all government-backed large corporations. The meeting took place at CCPIT, that is the Commercial Sub-Council, which is their primary and Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They had been already prepared for the claims against the Indian suppliers for the losses they had suffered, and they were all likely to invoke arbitration so that they can get compensation awards in their favor. Well, what I said, the same thing, and we said we are here, that this is not something which is going to be there all in future. We have been able to deal with this thing after having understood and taking remedial and corrective measures. The meeting with their country's official surveyor also took place. We told them the ways we formulated for a joint kind of inspection, which satisfies them that we are following the right course, assuring the right product is shipped to them and they received it into a good quality product. What at one time looked to be against us and taking us, rather actually pulling us to the court of law or arbitration, is that we could convince them that we are here for the purpose that we don't want to spoil our relationship. We want to trade with you on a continuous basis, and you rest assured that this is not going to recur. So I would like to quote Abraham Lincoln's what he said, the best way to destroy an enemy is to make him a friend. So this goes that we try to change his stance from opposing us or trying to be against us, to understand us rather into its right perspective, and to see that things do not become very aggressive from their side. From here we now move to our last leg of the delegation, that is Philippines. The capital is Metro Manila. Manila, you would heard, is a very large city with population almost touching 3 crore. Now this is a city and this is a country which is a bit different from others. The moment we reach for that meeting, again as usual, the ambassador of India into Manila stressed that he would like to be also joining for the meeting, and he joins the chairman of EAT Association. It was a very different kind of meeting. We have never seen it happening like this. It's like a classroom setting like this. So we were all sitting into this kind of a tables and chairs, one after behind the other, like our class is on. This man starts with the meeting and putting his thumb like this. Put $2 million here before you talk to us. You have blatantly cheated us. Like that, is fully, furious. Because the last complaint actually was from Philippines to the Indian ministry. And they have almost were going ahead to blacklist India forever. In India, no supplies, no buying from India here and after. Because the buyers suffered, certainly it's, again, in such a situation, you need to give them a patient hearing. Let them, vent out, their air or whatever they want to tell, not to, immediately say, sir, we have to, let them, come out with their ideas. And I would only say, we have to tell them, sir, this is probably one time. It is not going to be because in past also we have proved ourselves as a dependable, reliable supplier. And not that for 1 year we will try to deliberately push you something shoddy or not up to the mark, but probably gradually you can utilize this material, probably by mixing with other stuff, not that it is totally rendered useless. So you have to bear with us. We are sincerely hoping that probably we will continue to gain your confidence and trust as in past, and we will be your preferred suppliers, because we are into the Asia region where we have the closest proximity with you when we compare ourselves, when we compare with the Western world. The supplies there takes much longer to reach you vis-a-vis emanating from India. All those things again in the meeting, same followed by another dinner party that night. So, could specify, I would say, the furious lot. Again, what Abraham Lincoln said, determine that the thing can be and shall be done, and then we shall find a way. So, the whole idea is, it's a hard effort to face things, not to run away from the problems. And those who can face challenges, probably they are the only one who could find a way forward and ultimate winners. What at the first instance looked that the conflict was very hard, very tough. The exporters were not even willing to meet the importers. But as I said, the harder the conflict, the more glorious is the triumph. So, I would only say such initiatives with courage and with right, preparedness in order to, I must say, really find solutions, if not for the immediate, but for the future, can solve a lot of complex problems by a friendly and amicable way. Instead, and believe me, all this for huge supplies, huge losses they've suffered. What kind of compensation I could have offered them? You see, when you want to do all this, probably this was only a lip service. I did not offer them a penny, believe me. Now what, do you think that the buyers would get satisfied with this? Well, how do you approach? How do you talk to them? What is your body language? How do you regain the trust and confidence? That is what I think made this change. The delegation returns back to India after 15 days of rigorous hard work. Just believe how in those 2 weeks' time, how much time I would have slept. Can you just imagine? In this 15 days, I have not slept for more than 70 hours, believe me. Morning to evening, with buyers, with surveyors, with their agents, with their other diplomats, and with the media. We wanted to carry this information in a very effective way that the Indians wanted to be working as reliable source despite this instance or these kind of problems which occurred during that period. At one time, everything looked to me a blackout or a shutout. After we arrived, I received a communication from the chairman of the Korea Feed Association that Mr. Davis Jain, on your words that your association will monitor things for future, we have decided to resume our business with you at Korea Feed Association, and within next 3 weeks India receives new fresh contracts from South Korea for 2,68,000 tons, which is almost 25 shiploads, valued at 1,200 crores. What to me, at one time look like a huge problem could only be solved by facing it by sheer presence, ready to listen, understand, and find ways and means for a future business without interruption. And that is not only happened from South Korea, but then we received delegation from other countries. We made them without any, and rather actually grown into multifolds. And this is the kind of, case I thought maybe it's not in your textbooks, but it's a real life, 100% true, what I have, done in my lifetime. And friends, I'm very happy to say, when these things were narrated at the International Forum, I was conferred upon with an honoris causa Doctor of Science, second doctoral degree, based on this my effort, which was, and I must say, and I was specially honored at the 25th SOPI AGM as this Herculean effort, which I took it on my shoulder and faced it with courage and with diligence. Thank you, friends. I thought maybe it's some of interest, but before that, I conclude. I'm ready to take any questions from this or from any other area which I think was come to your mind or you should like to pose.